just like the day came on June 20th when we made that special announcement. Tonight is the night that we're able to sit here in front of you and tell you that this project is really happening, right? Baker Hotel is going to come alive again. You know, we're excited to be able to become a fabric of this community, to be able to hopefully stand up here one day and be recognized for our contribution back to the community and how the Baker itself as a hotel, as a living, breathing entity is giving back. And so we're excited about being able to do that in the future. I know it's still a few years away, but just know that it's every bit of our intent to be just as much a part of this community as each and every one of you are. You know, there's a quote that was mentioned here that I couldn't help but writing it down, and it's "Start being excited about what's going right," and that really struck with me because there's a lot going right in Mineral Wells right now. If you would indulge me for a minute, I'd like to just spend a few minutes identifying who our partners are, because each one of our partners have been believing in this, just like each one of you have, for a very long time. And it's important that you know who they are, because their roles are unique. And I think years ago, David actually posted something in the paper that said we were the Baker half dozen. I got a kick out of that. That was special. I remember seeing that years ago. But we've added a few since then. And I want to make sure that you recognize who we are. This evening, we have Mark Rawlings. Mark is responsible for actually bringing the hotel back to life. He's responsible for all the construction. And that's a huge undertaking. And he proclaims that no one knows that hotel better than he does. Now, show of hands, who's actually snuck in that building before? Those are the ones that are actually admitting that they've snuck into the building before. I think there might be a few more in this room that's probably been in there, and they weren't actually invited to be in, right? But Mark does know the ins and outs of this building very well, and he's been right along our side from the very beginning. And his pedigree on restoring historical hotels is unlike any other in this state, and so we're very fortunate to have Mark. Next to him is, yes. And he'll gladly have a beer with you and talk about it too. Next to him is one of my dearest friends, Laird Fairchild. Laird's been the visionary, the quarterback, the financial wizard in this project from the very beginning. His insight into tax credits and how they could be applicable to bringing this structure back to life was really the catalyst for getting me involved and really everyone else. So without his initial vision, we wouldn't have the pleasure of being able to make the announcements that we're making tonight. So thank you, Laird, for all you're doing. To Laird's side is a gentleman that I'm sure many of you know. His name's Randy Nix. He's a business owner here in town and has an unwavering belief in the resurrection of Mineral Wells, and an unwavering belief that Mineral Wells will be a destination like it was back in the 30s and 40s. And so we are so grateful that Randy was determined to be a part of this project and believed in what we were doing and believed in Mineral Wells. So thank you, Randy and Misty. Thank you so much for being a part of this. There's a few others, so hang in there with me. Jeff Trigger is not able to be here this evening, but Jeff Trigger is the operator and our partner from the very beginning. And Jeff has operated some of the most recognized hotels throughout the entire state of Texas, and he will be our operator going forward. His vision on what the end product will look like is really what keeps us motivated and excited. And so we're very fortunate to have Jeff. He is really a leader in the industry and has been recognized as the top operator in this state. So we're thankful for Jeff. Also, a husband and wife team by the name of Kurt and Beth Teal. Kurt is our architect, and Beth is our inspiration, and also our procurer of all the products that will be inside the hotel. Kurt and Beth coined a term, Palo Pinto chic, and we're excited to be able to roll out what that concept looks like to you. But we believe that it's going to be a blend of a formal night like tonight and a casual evening at the same time, and everyone being feeling comfortable together in the same room at the same time, celebrating Mineral Wells. So we're thankful for Kurt and Beth. And then finally, just as important, is a gentleman I don't think many of you have met, but is a critical component to our project. His name is Brent Ryan. And Brent runs an organization called Ryan and Company out of Dallas. And Ryan & Co. specializes in tax credits and incentives on how to make projects that are difficult like this come to life. And so Brent believes in this project. He hired Jeff Trigger as the operator of a hotel that he restored in his hometown in Big Spring, Texas. And he runs and owns a hotel called The Settles. And I think The Settles is a great example of what we can anticipate seeing going forward in a few years. So we're very thankful for Brent and his entire team. All right. So bear with me here. There's a few things I want to do. Apparently, social media kind of gets in the way of reality sometimes. And there are those that actually believe that, one, we didn't buy the hotel, or two, that we're not actually in the process of restoring the hotel, and maybe three, all sorts of other things that it's not really worth mentioning because it's all fake, right? It's all fake. Reality is, this has been a long, long project, and what turned the corner for this project was some foresight, some genius thinking by your previous mayor and city manager to apply for locations within Mineral Wells for an opportunity zone. They submitted an application to Governor Abbott. Governor Abbott approved those zones, or this area in Mineral Wells, and recognized the Baker, among other parts of Mineral Wells, as a qualified opportunity zone. That particular moment allowed us to raise equity and get some confirmation on some debt financing that we were struggling to obtain. So that flip of the switch, that application that took place in 2018 and was approved in late 2018, but all the legislative work came out in 2019, is what enabled us to be able to proceed forward with acquiring the building on June 20th. And as I stated on that day, if you were there, initiated construction on that date. So we're very thankful for Governor Abbott. We're very thankful for Mayor Mike Allen and our previous city manager, Lance Howard. All right, so for those non-believers or those that follow too much social media, let me just walk you through what we've actually been doing over the last 60 days because we actually have been doing some work. I know you see a construction fence on the outside, and that's just a small part of what we've begun. But obviously on June 20th, we made a major announcement and we purchased the building, which is a pretty big deal, right? Big investment on the development team's part. One thing you can't imagine is when you have a project of this size and magnitude, over 300,000 square feet, that's been closed my entire lifetime. I'm 47 years old, right? There's a lot of work that needs to be done just before you actually put wheels in motion and put construction workers inside the building. One thing we didn't have is we didn't actually have blueprints. Think about that for a minute, right? You're supposed to restore a building, but you don't have any blueprints. So we actually hired a group that came in and laser shot the entire building. And so now we actually have actual dimensions of the inside as well as the outside of the building. And it's critical, obviously, as that's our starting point from being able to identify what the end product will look like. You have to have a starting point, and that's our starting point. So that was a major accomplishment. Let's see here, what else? Obviously, when you're doing a remediation event like we are, it's about a year project to abate all the lead and asbestos in that building, right? So we had to hire a third-party consultant. We had to interview multiple consultants, identify the right consultant, and then hire that individual who's going to come alongside of us for the next year plus as we go through the full remediation, doing daily air quality tests to ensure that we're not harming any of our citizens in the community, right? And all the folks that will be working in there. So we hired that individual and brought that individual on to help us as we move forward. Let's see. We've actually finished the scope of work as to what the abatement will actually be, right? As you can imagine, what walls we're going to be taking down and what walls we're going to be keeping is a major task. For those of you who weren't aware, when the hotel was open, it was 440 rooms. Right, we're going to be 157 rooms when we're finished. So there's a number of floors where we're going to be combining 2 rooms into one, which used to be 2 rooms down into 1 room. We're also going to be putting in some some connectivity from the top floor to the next floor down that wasn't there before, and so moving the kitchen. There's a lot that takes place in trying to figure out what goes out and what stays in. So with that being said, we had to interview a number of remediation specialists, and a project of this size is going to require almost 100 employees on site every single day. And there aren't that many organizations in the state of Texas that can handle a project of that magnitude. So first we had to vet those folks out, and those final bids are actually due tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Today, pardon me, I wrote this yesterday, so Larry and I did, so yeah.
We have them.
Today we have them, my apologies. So they're all in, all the bids are in.
And we're on budget.
Yes, and we're on budget, which is a critical component as well, right? That's worth clapping for. We've worked closely with the chamber to help us identify hotel rooms, because we have to actually put those 100 folks in a hotel room here every single night, make sure they get fed, and they're working every single day at the hotel. So you'll see that activity starting in less than a month, about 3 weeks from now. So we're really excited about that. Next step, obviously we've been working very close with the Texas Historical Commission. Right? Well, in order to work with the commission, they have some pretty big mandates on us. Does anyone know how many windows we have in the hotel, besides Mark? 977. Anyone else have another guess? That's a pretty good guess. That's what I used to think it was. But it seems like every time we count them, the number goes up a little bit. Right? So we're currently at 997 windows. 997 windows. It's certainly going to be over 1,000 by the time we're done, I'm sure. But what we brought is we actually brought a window that we restored. So if you haven't had a chance to come up front, take a look. We actually brought a window up. We only have 996 more to go. Right? So we're interviewing.
That's half of one.
That's half of one. That's right. There's only one side. Right? So we're interviewing the folks that have the ability to restore those windows, because in order to be able to receive those tax credits, we have to restore each one of those windows. And we have to properly abate the lead and asbestos that's inside the glazing, right? So it just keeps getting more and more complicated as we go. But because of the complication associated with that, we have to hire a third-party consultant that we work with that's kind of our intermediary between Texas Historical Commission and us. Candidly, I think Mark could do that job by himself, but the way the business works, we need to make sure we have that consultant. So we've identified that consultant, and we're glad to have her on board. Okay, obviously if you're going to start construction on a building, you need to have a little bit of a power, right? You gotta have some utilities. That took a while, as you can imagine. You can't have construction workers out inside the building without any light. For those of you that have snuck in the building in the past, if you did it during the daytime, you probably weren't in the basement. If you weren't in the basement, there's no light in the basement, right? So we had to light the basement and light our other floors. And so we've now been able to hang some lights and be able to move forward with that aspect.
And security cameras.
And security cameras. Thank you, Larry. It's on the list. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Another critical component, which is a life safety measure, is we have to have water to the building, right? That building didn't have any water to it. So if you think about just the concept of bringing water to that building that hasn't had any water to it for almost 50 years, that's a process. So we work very closely with the city to make sure that's happening. So I'd take it a step further. For those of you who understand some life safety, there's standpipes, vertical pipes that run through the entire building, right? And they're pressurized. Historically, they were pressurized. Should there be a fire or an incident that requires water pressure, right? We need to be able to put out a fire. So Mark's ingenuity, creativity, and knowledge of being in that hotel for the last 10 plus years proved up that those standpipes that were installed in 1929 were still worthy of holding water pressure, which they were. They were. A few small, tiny little leaks, but well worth repairing, easy to repair, and so now we're holding 200 pounds of water pressure in those standpipes. So when we bring those crews in, we know confidently that we're able to take care of any fire safety issues, as well as remediate any dust that might be coming from the demolition process. So we're thankful for that. Okay, obviously, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing is a huge component of the restoration. So we've just come back with our bid on what all that engineering work looks like, and we've now started soliciting contractor bids to actually bid out the specific trade work itself. So another major component. Again, you don't see guys running in and out of there, just a handful in and out as they're bidding, but a major component to the project. Obviously, when we start the asbestos and abatement work, lead and abatement work, we have to have exterior elevators, we have to have waste disposal. All of that's going to be on site in the coming weeks. All those bids have come in. We're about to award those bids. So you'll start to see an exterior construction elevator on the outside of the building here very soon. That'll be transporting not only contractors, but material. Okay. So what's the next 60 days look like? Because that's been basically the last 60 days. Am I missing anything? No? Good enough?
We're good.
All right, stop me if I miss something. All right, so as I mentioned, the abatement work's about to start. We're literally 3 weeks away from starting the abatement work. The construction fence is up, but we're going to add a little extra flavor to it, and we're going to wrap it. We're going to wrap it with our branding so it kind of closes off and gives you a nice, attractive look from the street, and it's not just all construction site. So that should be going up here pretty soon. I just approved the concept this evening. We'll see it install in about the next 2 weeks, and it'll take about 2 weeks to be installed. So hats off to the chamber, Ryan Roach, and I don't remember what class it was, but it was their class project to put up the tour that protected the windows. Yes? 23. Shout out to class 23. Right? I promised Ryan when you made that investment that investment wouldn't go to waste, and so we're going to preserve the east side of the property to be able to keep those signs intact. So we're going to take some of them off the building and then apply them to the east side, so folks that are still wanting to walk around the building can get a perspective on the history of the building and the folks that have stayed there in the past. So thank you for all you guys did there. We're very thankful for that. Okay, security cameras. Just about to be installed. Bids are completed, and we're going to have our cameras throughout the entire building. So we'll be notified every time someone tries to hop the fence or tries to sneak in the building. So for those of you that raised your hand, I think the party's over. Just give me a heads up, right? Going forward, you're going to have to wear hazmat uniforms and all sorts of stuff to go in, okay?
Orange jumpsuits today.
Orange jumpsuits, that's right. At least for 24 hours until you make bail. All right, so we just received today some drawings of what the first floor would look like, as well as how we're going to move traffic along 180 in front of the building. As you can imagine, that's a task, right? So we have to work closely with TxDOT to do so, but those drawings just came back today, and we're excited to be able to show them in due time. The next big component is obviously the website. Has anyone been to the BakerHotelAndSpa.com website? If you haven't, I encourage you to do so. You'll be able to see the branding there. You'll get a taste of what the feel will be like going forward. Also at the website, if you're a professional that believes that you have a trade that can bring value to the rehab of the project, we ask you that you submit that information there on the website. If you have an artifact, if you have a story to tell, if you're wanting to book a room, whatever it might be, you have access to be able to do that from the website, and we encourage you to do so. We're tracking all of that information, we're going to house it, and we promise that when the time is right, you'll be categorized and we'll be coming back to you for follow-up communication. So please, if you haven't checked out the website, please do so. The media group. As you see here this evening, there's a cameraman walking around. So we have engaged a group called Two Stone Media and have established what is called the Baker Hotel Media Group. There is a desire to see the restoration of the Baker Hotel and take it one step further, the restoration of the historic district of Mineral Wells. And so we have engaged an organization and partnered with them to move forward with capturing the entire project as it moves along over the next 3 years. And there's more information to be shared there, but we anticipate having the first episode soon, and we have a number of vendors that are very interested in kind of co-promoting and co-marketing with us and with the city. And then we also have a number of sources that would like to be able to post those shows, right, those episodes. And so more information coming, but if you're walking by the hotel, or if you're walking around downtown, you're going to see signs that are already up that basically says that you're on camera, and if you're not interested, you need to walk the other way. So tonight could very well be on camera, and if you're not interested, you might need to let me or Laird or Mark or Randy know that you don't want to be a part of it, all right? So we're really excited about what this brings to not just the project itself, but the community at large, right? There's so much momentum that you can get from being able to put that kind of media content out there for folks to be able to watch, and so we're excited about what comes from that. Okay, last topic, which I think is really critical. We put on the table at least one of these sheets, right? So we've been getting a lot of questions. One thing that I'll tell you, from the very beginning, we've been completely transparent about the funding of the project, the cost of the project, the need in order to get this thing accomplished. It's a complicated investment plan, and it's one that we've finally been able to achieve. But I'm not asking you to go and try to define or decipher what this means. I'll kind of walk you through it. But what I think our intent here was to be able to express to you that when the community participates from an economic development perspective, right? Whether it's a TERS district, which are very common not only across the state of Texas but across the country to drive economic development into their community, wherever that district is defined. Well before the project, this Baker Hotel, kicked off, this was established in large part to launch the redevelopment of the Baker Hotel, or whether it's 4B economic development dollars that leave your general fund, which is 1/8 of a cent, and moves into economic development fund that is used solely for the purpose of driving economic development into your community. That whole purpose of doing that is to drive more revenue back into the city, right? And so third-party analysis with the analysis reviewed by your city manager as well as David Hawes, your new economic development director, has really been able to come up with some numbers here that I think are relevant and important for you to know. Tax that'll be generated and earned by the city of Mineral Wells just during the construction period of this project is over $620,000. So the materials that are going to be purchased are going to be purchased in Mineral Wells. We're not purchasing the materials somewhere else. We're going to be purchasing them in Mineral Wells. It's all calculated here if you want to do the math, but I've got to highlight it for you. Over $780,000 per year in tax receipts will flow through annually to the city of Mineral Wells after the Baker Hotel opens. $780,000 in sales tax receipts. So let me just kind of explain that to you. That's in the form of city sales tax, county sales tax, city hotel occupancy tax, city alcohol sales tax, and utility franchise tax revenues. All come back to the city to equate over to $780,000. That equates to a net present value of over $13.5 million to the city of Mineral Wells. These are what we call direct benefits that come from the Baker. These are not indirect benefits that all of your businesses that operate here in Mineral Wells will be able to benefit from. This is just the revenue that's generated from the Baker. Just as importantly, during the construction period, there will be over 700 direct and what are called indirect jobs created during the construction period. And then 230 direct and indirect jobs during the operation of the hotel, specifically between 135 and 145 individuals working at the hotel, which makes us certainly a top 10 employer in the city. So those are really the items that I wanted to share with you, the team wanted to share with you. I wanted to make sure that we just kind of cleared the air. And for those of you that do check out social media, I'd ask you to void yourself of misinterpretation and misunderstanding and come to the source. We are happy to share with you details. We are under a non-disclosure agreement with the city, which is really nothing more, candidly, than a memorandum of understanding that we've discussed with the city, which we've been discussing candidly, openly for the last decade. There's not much in there that's different. and a few ancillary things that anyone that's developing anything of this magnitude would be working with the city to be able to overcome. There's really no surprises, secrets, or anything of that nature, but because we're in an NDA, there are some things that we just can't disclose. With that being said, we are open to having a discussion with anyone that would like to sit around afterwards and have a discussion with us. I know there are some folks here that might have some questions, and we want to make ourselves available to do that. We don't want to hold up the $1,000 winner. And so with that being said, I would like to close by just saying thank you to the Chamber. Thank you to each one of you that have believed in us, to Richard Ball and the Industrial Foundation, Steve Butcher, Lance Howerton, Mayor Mike Allen. Thank you guys for all the support that you gave us in the very beginning. You know, we always said that this was a project for the community because this is what the community wanted, and we're here today in the exact same position, just one step further because we're actually doing it, right? And so we're super excited to be able to do that. Thank you to Clark Gardens, the Clark family. This is a beautiful venue, and we're excited about how the Baker Hotel can help bring awareness to this beautiful location and how incoming tourists can benefit as well. So thank you for hosting this evening. And to Corey and Taylor, you guys rock, man. You guys sound really good. I didn't know you had it in you, Corey. Didn't know you had it in you. All right, so I'll just leave by saying, start being excited about what's going right, because there's a lot going right in Mineral Wells. Thank you.